man, Bryant West, who's very, very busy last night over on the Deuce and Mo podcast. Happy to have Bryant West of the King's Herald with us, telling a story about how he jumps off the podcast, pours a nice tall glass of bourbon. What type of bourbon, by the way?
Woodford.
Oh, very nice, very nice. And then spots my tweet about Draymond Green. Bryant actually texted me after that, like, "Hey, come clean, bruh. What's going on here?" I took for those who aren't in on the joke. Our friends at 95.7 had a really rough day yesterday. Our crew, the Chatty House, they had a rough morning too. They're having a rough couple days. They dug up tweets, videos, post-game shows, and I just wanted to make sure if Windhurst theory had any level of validity to it, and you searched my name with Draymond Green, the first thing you're going to get is this really nice tweet about him.
And I'm going to tell you like this. I'm going to tell you right now, Draymond Green comes to the Sacramento Kings, and y'all start pulling up my old tweets, I'm going to hit y'all with a Ramsey. I'm going to be like, so?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I'd say it to his face.
At some point over the next 2 years, Kenny, myself, a friend of ours, and Draymond Green are going to have dinner together.
And I'd look forward to it. And not in a disrespectful way. I'd just be like, bro, I'm not going to be fake with you. I'm going to tell you what I've
talked
said,
crazy about
what I've said. And if he's as real as people say he is, he'll be like, okay. And we'll talk about it. I'll be like, this is why I felt this way. And then he'll probably be like, this is why I think you're wrong or unfair. And I'll sit there and listen to him. If he's as real as everybody says he is, we can have that conversation.
Yeah.
You know,
I'll totally go ahead.
I don't think he cares.
Yeah,
like, I think he's
exactly
used to this. Like, he gets it. Like, if Bryant, we just said there's a certain level of a pro wrestling character to Draymond Green. And like, when you're a character, you have to be prepared for, one city loving that character and 29 other cities looking at you sideways. So I'm sure anything we've said about that character wouldn't faze him whatsoever.
No.
Yeah, for sure. And at the end of the day, the only two people whose opinions on this matter are Mike Brown and Monty McNair.
Yeah. And I think we know how Mike Brown feels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think we know how Monty McNair feels.
And even though we have an idea of how Mike Brown feels, we don't know how far that goes, right? Like he can love Draymond and be like, it's not a good fit.
He really loved him in Golden State.
Right. Like,
it's a very nice uniform for you to be wearing.
I don't have the same setup. It doesn't work for me, but I love you, big dog. Go get another.
Yeah, that's 4K. We're HD over here. We're not ready for that. We're making the conversion to 4K. You stay over there.
But and real quick, we'll get to everything. But this report that I just saw, this may be all Draymond and the people is looking for. Former NBA executive believe Warriors are, quote, sweating at the idea of Draymond joining the Kings. So all you need is somebody to put something out there to drive up that price, baby.
Yeah,
it could be, but I'll also say this: there's going to be more names involved than just the Kings.
Oh, for sure.
We might not get those tonight. You might get those next week, but it's not going to be the Kings or the Warriors coming into Friday. You're going to hear some probably intriguing names, ones that actually might work.
Yeah, but you're hearing the Kings name a couple hours after they just traded the number 24 pick to get Rashawn Holmes' contract off the books so that they had cap space.
Yeah.
So wherever this is coming from, that's part of it.
You guys know what I say, and I feel the same way about this. Even after they didn't broke the streak, Kings are relevant. Kings low key moved the needle. People don't like to hear that. My guy Bonte don't like to hear that.
He don't like that at all.
But the Kings, it used to be for all the wrong reasons, but they were relevant. They moved the needle. Now they're the hotness, and everybody's looking like one of the storylines for this offseason is going to be, can the Kings get that one piece to take them to the next level? Everybody thinks they're like a piece away from going to the next level. Whether that's true or not, that's what everybody who thinks they're in the know feels. And they're going to be looking for that next piece. Kings are relevant. They move the needle right now, baby.
The Kings Herald Slack was talking this morning. this is the first year that anybody can remember where the Kings have both the respect of the league and the players out there and cap space to do something with it. So that means something.
Draymond Green's IG story shows a quote from Stephen A. Smith. I think Draymond Green is easily worth another $100 million.
Retweet that, Draymond. Hey, I'm not mad at Draymond. He's playing the game right now, man, and he's doing an excellent job. And I will salute him on that. He about to finesse.
That man really might get
he about to finesse him way into another $100 million. I can't hate on that at all.
Yeah, if he didn't think he was worth that, he wouldn't get it. He'd never go get it.
What do you think about the players the Kings passed on last night by making this deal with Dallas?
Yeah, it's hard for me to sit here and complain too much about them not drafting, any one player or any couple of players until I see how they use the cap space. But clearly there were some guys I really would have loved to see them snag at 24. Leonard Miller was my favorite prospect still on the clock. I thought he was a lottery level talent. Clearly GMs disagreed with me on that, but I think in a year or so, he could have been an excellent fit playing next to Domantas Sabonis as, that more rangy, versatile defensive presence, good rebounder, promising ball handler for his size, was one of the better players in the G League last year. And, going to Minnesota in the second round, I think that's going to be a great test case to see how he develops next to Karl Anthony Towns, because a lot of what I think they're going to ask him to do is a role that, I would have hoped that the Kings would have asked him to do here. Bryce Sensabaugh, we talked about him last week. He would have been my other pick here. Exceptional shot-making prospect, incredible efficiencies all season long for Ohio State. I expect that he fell in the draft for a reason. Maybe the medical evaluations on his knee weren't good. But if he stays healthy, he's just going to be great for Utah. It's hard for me to look at a scorer that talented and understand why he lasted that long. At the end of the day, though, the Kings got a guy who I had a first round grade on in Colby Jones, and they cleared almost $13 million of contract off the books in the process. So it really just, to me, comes down to what they do with that salary space.
One guy that I'm not going to say it as if the Kings passed on him. I was just kind of hoping he'd be around at 38, and he just came off the board, was Andre Jackson Jr. out of UConn. I was kind of intrigued by him as the draft went along and some other things that I had read. And I was like, man, I wonder if he's available at 38 with the Kings get him. He ended up going, I think, at 35 or 36 or something. Couple
after the Kings got Colby.
That's right. They traded. That's right. That's what it was. So, I wondered if he was somebody that might have been on Monty's radar, but we got Colby, so maybe he feels he's got a better version of that type of guy.
Yeah, Andre would have been a great role player here, but honestly, I mean, Colby Jones in the Kings range, I think he was the most versatile two-way, high instinct fit that they could have added to this roster. Very much a Monty McNair in this front office's kind of player. 6'6" in shoes, 6'8" wingspan, great stats across the board: 15 points. 4.5 assists, 5.5 rebounds, 50% shooting, 38% from deep. Like, Xavier was a good team last year, and they were especially dangerous in the half-court offense. And Jones was the biggest reason for that. He initiated the offense as much as anybody. He reads the floor really well, throws the smart and simple passes and highlight cross-court reads, plays on and off the ball without issue. Made big improvements as a shooter. I think you can always just trust him to make the right play on offense, and on defense. Like, he's gonna be a lot of fun to watch for Sacramento. Really help that bench unit's defensive intensity. Strong and quick enough to guard up and down lineups. Plays physical. Averaged 1.4 steals across his entire career. I just love them adding him. I would have understood if he'd been the pick at 24, but instead they got him at 34. So that was pretty cool to see.
Two things stand out to me when reading about Colby Jones before the draft and of course following the selection last night at 34 for Sacramento. High IQ guy, and he's 21.
Listen, that's Monty.
At some point, we just have to acknowledge that Monty McNair has a type.
Monty ain't never going to see nobody under 20.
Monty McNair has eyes for a certain type of player.
For sure.
Jones seems to fit that mold beautifully. Anything else stand out about this? Oh, we didn't mention this at the top of the show. It's obviously not final. We could deal with this next week and in the days to follow. I did think of something as the draft wound down after this selection. Curious, both of your thoughts. Did we lose Terence Davis last night?
I think so. I mean, there's never a bad thing about having as many shooting wings as you have, but I don't necessarily know that Colby Jones is going to come in and be that, what was Terence Davis on the roster, 8th, 9th guy, but he absolutely could. And you know, to me, I think he's a better playmaker, probably not quite as explosive a shooter, but a really good catch and shoot guy. I love his defensive effort. I think he's about the same size as Terence Davis. So redundancy is never a bad thing to have at that position and skill set. But to me, this kind of signals that direction.
Yeah, it quite possibly could be the case. And even if they brought back TD, it would be probably in that same role of like not playing for 5-6 games and then ask you to get out there and make sure you do everything perfect, or else you're out in 2 minutes or something like that. And I'm not sure even if, you know, it's an offer that he may not be getting anywhere else, I'm not sure he wants to sign up for that again. Like if he got 2 offers from the Kings and 1 from the Rockets, he might just take the Rockets because he'd be able to play a little bit more and do his thing, even though it's not as good of a team. Not to say that winning doesn't matter to him. That's a tough situation, like not knowing when you're going to play, sitting for 6-7 straight games and then asked to go out there and perform. It's a tough situation. A little more consistency with the playing time is probably what he's looking for.
I think Monty called him one of the best two-way player in the draft.
Yeah, he did.
Did he? Wow.
Yeah.
That's high praise.
You agree with the executive of the year on that one, Brian? Did he strike you during your, the evaluation process? Because again, this was a player that we thought might be a little higher on in the draft than where he wound up going. Did being a two-way player really stand out to you?
Being a two-way player absolutely stands out in this game. I think calling anybody but Wembanyama the best two-way player in the draft is a bit of hyperbole, but
maybe he forgot. Like, because
maybe he forgot.
I'm gonna guess Monty didn't evaluate Victor Wembanyama. No. Maybe he forgot that he was a part of this draft.
Yeah. Come December last year, he was like, "Well, okay, I guess we're probably not going to be here right now."
Right, thankfully.
Yeah, his two-way effort, his two-way intensity. He's just such a smart dude, and was that Xavier team was stacked. Especially on the offensive end. I think they had like 4 players who scored 14 points or more, and he just flowed seamlessly from being a primary initiator to the catch and shoot guy to just swapping over and guarding anyone from point of attack to bigger wings. So definitely love his two-way focus. This is the kind of role player that you would want to see a team if they're not going to swing for the fences on some, 18-year-old high range prospect. This is the kind of guy that we should have always expected Monty McNair to go for.
Yeah. And I can't, like I said, I can't wait to see what he's able to do out here. You got any thoughts on our man Slauson Ave out of Fordham? What you think about that pickup?
Jalen Slauson, 5th-year senior.
Yeah. Another one, I guess, if you just looked at the numbers and the age range, you should have probably realized Monty McNair and his staff would go for, smart, versatile, experienced player. I'll be fully honest. I think the only firm in basketball I've seen in the last few years was when they beat Virginia in the tournament. So I'm not the expert on Jalen Slauson. I watched some tape this morning, went back and rewatched that Virginia game. And, I can see why some smart fans out there were really excited about him. Shout out to Jill Edge and, a bunch of Kings Twitter fans. they've been all in on him for a while. He looks like he's got good size, length, vertical pop to play both forward spots. Maybe a tad undersized at the NBA level, but big wingspan and strength. His reactions on defense, again, just in the tape I've watched, it's impressive. And seeing a guy average more than 3 combined steals and blocks over 2 straight seasons, that's amazing. I don't care what conference he's doing it in. He just looks like a guy who's going to fight on both ends to make the most out of his opportunities. His stat line was really cool. Nice to see him shoot nearly 40% from deep on real volume this year. Fingers crossed that was a real indication of his shooting ability going forward, because, first 4 years he was out for a minute, wasn't that consistent. But I'm excited to see how this summer league team goes between Slauson and Colby. I think you're going to have 2 guys who can clearly do a lot of stuff, make smart decisions on both ends of the court. This Kings team might be a ton of fun to watch.
You're listening to D-Lo and KC along with our man Bryant West of the Kings Herald here on KIFM West Sacramento, 98.5 FM, KRX QHD2 Sacramento, ESPN 1320, always live on the free Odyssey app, live in visual form as well on twitch.tv/ESPN 1320, youtube.com/ESPN 1320. We hope if you're watching, you'll hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe buttons as well. We're here Monday through Friday, 12 to 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We think you'll enjoy the show if it's your first time here. Bryant, they've got some cap money. We've been using the line that the Sacramento Kings drafted some cap space yesterday. Who's at the top of your list?
I've been thinking about it this morning. I'd love to find a way to go out there and use that cap space to go get both Naz Reid and Josh Hart. Like, those would be the 2 guys I'd go give a call. Like, both of them, I think they'd fit this Kings team really need, and you'd never have to worry about rebounding again with those 2.
Josh opted out of 18. Is that too high? 18? Okay.
If the Kings are going to offer him more than that, they'll probably have to offer him more than that. So it's definitely complicated. I have no idea what Naz Reid expects to get on the open market, but I think right there's an opportunity to get 2 guys that really fit the Kings' needs, help them on the defensive end. Naz Reid would be a great fit next to Sabonis, can space the floor a little bit, plays with that rugged dog energy, just make it hard for everybody else out there. But if they go out there, sign Kyle Kuzma, maybe get involved in the Jeremy Grant conversation. Hell, maybe they go call Brook Lopez and they say, hey, we know you're nearing the end of your career, but hey, just come be the perfect center next to Sabonis. Kings have options now. Kings have options in free agency and actual, respect to the league first time in forever. So I'm going to really hold my reservations on this draft until we see what Monty McNair does with that cap space. But I know you said it. I know Deuce and Mo said it last night. I just struggle to think that the Kings would have made this deal without knowing, okay, here's our plans for how we're going to use that cap space.
Yeah, I agree that Richaun Holmes salary and contract was I'm not talking about the player. That was an asset. You know what I mean? And that's something that you hold on to until I'm going to use it for something specific, not just to create random cap space. So I think they got something cooking, whether it's free agency or being able to absorb contract or anything like that. They got something cooking after that.
Yeah. And you guys were praising Richaun Holmes earlier. I just want to reiterate all of that. I hope he excels in Dallas. I think he really can. They took Derek Lively at 12 yesterday, and I was kind of scratching my head, not in terms of the fit, because Lord knows they need a defensive center. But to me, that's a team that's so desperate to get back to the playoffs that to take probably the rawest prospect in that range, like Derek Lively played 20 minutes a game last year for Duke. Then going and getting Richaun Holmes, like Holmes could be a real factor for them next year. So fingers crossed that happens for him, because I think he deserves it. I would love to see him excel again out of Sacramento.
Yeah, certainly. We said earlier, just a bright spot during a time for Sacramento that didn't have many. And then he got, stuck in that weird transition and just never got his feet under him again.
He's definitely a standing ovation guy.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Definitely
Absolutely. No one's got beef with Richaun Holmes. absolutely no one's got beef with the Rashawn Holmes. Bryant, great stuff as always, man. We love talking to you, period. We really love talking to you around this time of year. You had a long night last night doing the pod, so we thank you for jumping on and spending some time with us.
Of course, guys. Anytime. Best radio show in Sacramento.